veteran.
Very good. Just a couple matters of logistics. Now we have a newly renovated, safe, code-compliant school. Every exit has a green exit sign over it, so please, when you go on the tours, and you look around in this room, know where your closest exit is by following those signs. Restrooms, we have ample restrooms throughout the facility. There are two right outside here, but as you go on the tours, there are numerous restrooms, both for students and staff. Feel free to use any that you'd like. There's stairwells in all of the corners, as well as front and back, and there's an elevator down the hall near the new main entrance near the cafeteria. So if there is anybody who does not feel comfortable navigating the stairs on the tour, please go on the tour that leads directly out the back, and make sure that the tour guides accommodate you. So again, welcome. We have several pictures. This is one of the ugly ones from during the summer slam demo project, and there was a lot going on last summer. There were well over 100 contractors in 30 different trades. I'm going to let this slide show run. Hopefully it won't detract from you listening to me, but it's good to be able to see the history behind the project through these pictures. Again, thank you to the entire community. This was a real community effort. All of you as homeowners in the town are paying for this new school. We appreciate your support for doing so, as well as through the MSBA, through the reimbursement program. And there were so many people that contributed to the success of the project itself. And we have our project managers, we have a construction management firm, the building committee is right here, former administrators here in the town of Norton, and the finance committee, the building committee, the school committee, the board of selectmen. Just a little background of the project. I can tell you now, now that it's complete, that the timing of this project could not have been any better. It was done when construction costs were relatively low during the recession. Interest rates as well, the bond rates were lower than we expected. So you're going to walk around and hopefully see the value of this building. But I wanted to point out that from a finance perspective, the timing could not have been better. If we were to go out right now with a similar project, the construction cost would be far higher, and all of us would be paying more for the same, the same product. I'm going to go through the overview of the afternoon. We put a lot of planning into this. I'm going to finish up with opening remarks in a minute, and we're going to have some recognitions. We're going to go to some guest speakers from our state representatives, as well as state senator and MSBA and a member from the Treasurer's Department. Then we're going to go right to the ribbon cutting ceremony and then a conclusion. And before we break, I'm going to set up the different tour groups. And I wanted to wait and see where everybody sat first, so we're going to do this in an organized fashion. We have several student reps that are going to conduct the tours. A building committee member will tag along if you want to ask any detailed questions of them during the tour as well. And at 3:30, we have Master Sergeant Trent dedication right out here in the auditorium, outside the auditorium, and Bob Kimball, selected in town, is going to run that. And also up in the science wing, Peter Leddy, who passed away about a year or two ago, was a longtime science teacher and department chair in Norton. And there's going to be a dedication before him at 2:30 upstairs in the science wing. Then when all of the tours are complete, we will have a gathering in the cafeteria. There'll be refreshments, kind of a reception. Feel free to ask any more questions or anyone who has a name tag who may be able to answer the questions, and enjoy the afternoon. And the plan is to have the entire program done by around 4 o'clock. At 3:30, the parent board has been conducting a very large fundraiser. There's going to be a helicopter. Oh, it was canceled because of weather. Oh, sorry, yeah. Oh, that's a shame. All right, we'll forget about that. Anybody who was here just to see their ball drop, you're welcome to leave if you want. This was an enormous undertaking. When you do a major renovation like this in an occupied high school with 700 students and upwards of 100 staff members, and to phase that in over 2 years worth of time, it's logistically a nightmare. And I want to make sure that the high school staff and administration gets the credit that they deserve, particularly Principal Lafayette, being able to reschedule classrooms, reassign classrooms, move staff throughout the building, motivate our staff to pack up all of their supplies before the summer, put them in storage, and just the coordination and the leadership that it took to do that in an occupied school. Many times you hear of large construction projects, obviously new buildings are easy, nobody is there, but industrial commercial projects, you don't have to deal with that. You work with nobody's in the building. But here it was done very smoothly, without a hitch, and really the administration deserves all the credit for that. All right. I'm working on my Kindle here. I was trying to figure out, how do I read my notes without needing reading glasses? Technology came to mind. Use my Kindle and expand it. Of course, early on, we have Mr. Ray Dewey here, who was the former high school principal, Dr. Ansay, where are you? In the back with her parents. The initial approval and all of the legwork leading up to this project getting started was all done way back in 2007 and forward. It was Dr. Ansay and Ray that put all of the documentation together for the MSBA, filed the statement of interest, performed all of the building assessment information and reports to show the MSBA that we have a viable project, we have a well-run school that's well-maintained, multiple meetings with the MSBA, and of course you're going to see some, you may have seen some already, pictures of Mr. Dewey there giving some of the tours way back over 3 years ago to show what the school looked like at the time. So there was a lot of work done just to get the information out to the community and to gain approval through the MSBA. And most of that work was done by Mr. Ray Dewey and Dr. Patricia Ansay. So let's give it a little. Along with the project-related work, this high school has gone through a transformation over the last 10 years to make it what it is right now educationally. And none of that would have happened without the leadership of Dr. Ansay and Mr. Dewey, because you want to invest in a school that has credibility and has strength in other ways, beyond the facility. And to build that credibility and that foundation of educational excellence was so important to getting this building project approved and supported. So that also should be recognized. The MSBA, Jack McCarthy was the executive director. Steve Grossman, the state treasurer. The whole MSBA program provides a model and framework for instruction, direction, and support for projects like this. And without that support and that infrastructure, towns and cities would be on their own on managing projects like this. So with your group, thank you as well. Painting company, which is all over here. Chet's not here, but Chet was our on-site clerk of the works here every day, overseeing the entire project, making sure that we were well represented. He was the eyes and ears of the town and the building committee, as well as Deborah and Tom and Margaret and Jennifer. Welcome back. And they were our project managers, owner's project managers, which means that their job was to represent the town of Norton and the building committee, and make sure that our needs were met, to make sure that all of the reporting was submitted to the MSBA on time, to be our advocate and advisor through the process. And they did a fabulous job at that. And without you, we would have been lost. And for the first 6 months, the building committee being in place, we had no direction. It was just us. And then we got the feasibility money. We were able to hire a paint company, and things got a lot easier after that. And, your firm did a very good job. Thank you, Jennifer. JCJ, our architect, right down here. There's a lot of planning that goes into a building like this. And I never fully appreciated the work of an architect until we went through this whole process. You have to plan the needs of the school. You have to make sure it's code compliant. You have to make sure that the egresses are properly planned. The functional needs are met. The design elements are properly addressed. And where is our JCA folks? Oh, thank you. And these guys did a fantastic job. I mean, meeting the deadlines, we had to file the feasibility study by March of 2011. They had to file the schematic design by 2 months later, by May of 2011. By August, you had to submit the design development documentation to the MSBA. And all of these deadlines, JCJ came through and met all the deadlines and gained approval through the MSBA on the first pass. The feasibility study, if we didn't, only one town out of the 6 were approved through that initial feasibility presentation at the MSBA. If we had been one of the other 5, our whole project would have been pushed back according to the schedule of the MSBA and their timelines and their board meetings. So, I want to make sure you're recognized and we understand that not only the quality of the work that you did, but the time that you did it under, and the constraints that you had, were very well noticed, as well as 3 months later, you had to start putting together all the construction documents, which are hundreds of pages by trade, multiple levels for a project like this. And JCJ came through and did everything on time and at enough quality, as well as helping us through the iterative process. How do we, work around issues that come up, right? Whether it be budget issues, cost issues, scope issues, and the whole team worked as advisors on how do we best accomplish the needs of the town so that we have a finished product that everybody will be happy with. And JCJ was a huge part of that. Now, WT Rich. They were our construction managers. They basically did all the work in here. Some of you may not know this, but nobody on the building committee lifted a hammer or operated a power tool. That was all done by our construction management firm and all of the trades and the people you had working with you. You had to submit all of the bids, manage all the bids, go through the selection process. It's been a real collaborative relationship with you guys, and working through a high school renovation occupied. I'm sure you had your challenges, and you work very closely with the central office and the high school office to work through those. Mike Perello was on here. He was our on-site construction supervisor, so he had to oversee the 130 contractors and the 30 trades on a day-to-day basis. And that's an enormous job to manage. And in some of these pictures, you can see what went on over the last 2 years, and especially last summer. Was a massive amount of work in 2.5 months. And again, WT Rich and all the contractors that you hired, you're all credit for that. Now, nobody's laughed. So usually when a slide presentation like this is running in the background of the presentation, something funny comes up, and the speaker thinks they're laughing at him, and it's usually laughing at the slide, so that's... Okay, as far as the building committee, we had about 70 meetings. Every one of them was long. They involved a lot of thought, a lot of decisions, a lot of participation. These weren't meetings that you can just sit there and sit in the background. Everybody on the building committee contributed, shared their thoughts. There was some arguments and discussions sometimes, but it was all toward making sure that the finished product was what the town expected. Everyone was professional, and I'm going to talk individually about every member of the building committee in a minute. We made some changes. There were only 5 members of the building committee that were original members. There were 11 on the building committee, and I went back and looked, and only 5 of us were on the original building committee. We made some changes to kind of fill some gaps that we had. We didn't have enough knowledge when it comes to construction knowledge, so we had Mark join as well as Brian. We wanted to make sure that continuity was maintained. When Tom stepped off the school committee, we put him on the building committee and replaced him with somebody else. So we did some adjustments along the way to make sure that we continue to have good representation for the town on the building committee. So, moving on. Paul. Paul is a senior member of the finance committee. He was the one who provided all of the reason, the logic, the historical perspective, the intelligence on asking questions that kind of geared everybody down the right path. And his professionalism and his dedication to the town and to this building committee cannot be understated. And I hope everybody in the room understands the contribution that Paul Helmer makes to the town of Norton that he has made over the decades. He's a retired professor from Wheaton College, and he's gone through some challenges of his own, during the process of this building project. And he never missed a beat. His wife passed away during the project, and he still showed up to the meetings. He would visit his wife at dinner over at Epic and come here right afterwards and skip dinner himself to make sure he was here all the time and contributor. So I greatly value and appreciate his contribution to the building committee, as well as the decades serving the town of Norton. Mark Powers, invaluable experience in the construction and trades. His background provides what we needed as far as knowledge with this project, to ask the right questions, to be a smart customer, to the project and to our vendors and our professional team. But beyond that, Mark's passion is amazing. I mean, he was part of the NEED group that was out there promoting the project. When he was done with that, he sent me an email, he said, can I join the building committee? And fortunately, we were able to make a position for him, and it's been so great. He's been a huge, valuable asset to the building committee with his working knowledge. So, thank you, Mark. It was Brian Boucher. Brian also has background in construction. He was another person that was added on later in the project based on our needs. Once we had the project approved, I had to look at the makeup of the committee. I wanted to make sure we had people with construction background on the committee. That was more important than, there was some changes with some boards, people that were no longer on boards and committees, and it gave us a great opportunity to backfill with people we felt were really important to this building committee. So Brian has been a great addition as well. Brad Branwell, he's on the board of selection. He is an original member of the building committee. When we went to the MSBA and met with them, Brad and Art Dansey and Ray and myself many times went in there together. Brad, if you don't know him, he's very calm, thoughtful. I can usually tell just by looking at Brad what he's thinking. So in a meeting, if we have something that's being debated, Brad doesn't have to say a whole lot. I can usually tell by looking at his face whether he supports it or he doesn't. And if I'm paying attention, I can ask him for additional comment to share with everybody else, because I know there's something going on in that head that he wants to share with everybody. And from a political perspective, Brad's been great. He's been the liaison to the Board of Selectmen, which meant that he could feed back information, updates directly to the Board of Selectmen, and I knew that he was providing accurate and valid information. So thank you, Brad. Mike Flaherty could not make it for 1 o'clock. He should be here soon. He is currently the Finance Committee Chairperson. He also is an original member of the Building Committee. And his occupation, we found out later, involves construction risk management. So what a great member to have on the Building Committee, somebody whose own business is involved in risk management and insurance and such in the construction industry. Drew Mackey. Drew joined as the school committee representative once Tom resigned from the school committee. So he was our representative, but I'll tell you that Drew and I worked together for 10 years now, and he's methodical, he's organized, thoughtful, and he's passionate about things that are really important to him. Like, for example, this auditorium was really important to Drew. So when you look around and you see some of the features, it was something that Drew was really passionate about, to make sure that we had a real good auditorium that, that the community could be proud of. Drew also has he had two high school students, and he works in the health industry, which those of you, that see some of the benefits around the school that relate to health and wellness, Drew always had input to that, so thank you, Drew. So I mentioned Tom Bellotta. He was an original member of the building committee as well. He made trips into the MSBA office many times at the beginning to get the project going. He was a former school committee chairman, so he was the school committee chairman when we started the building. And what Tom has done is provided continuity, stability, and that sense of the foundation that we needed throughout the whole project. So thank you, Tom. All right, Barry, so those are all of our volunteer committee members, and I wanted to recognize them first because everybody I just mentioned completely volunteered their time for this project. Nobody was paid, hours and hours, the concern, the passion, not only the meetings, but the things you think about outside of the meetings that you want to make sure are not, things that don't slip through the cracks and such. So, 4 years is a long time to volunteer for a project like this, and everybody I just mentioned, has. As far as the central administrative staff, Barry Necktown, who is not here, the Director of Operations and Finance, deserves a lot of credit because he's the one who managed all of the finances in the county through the MSBA. He's the one who paid all the bills, kept all of the reporting, advised the building committee on finances, all the balances that we had in the different accounts. Barry was the one who made sure that we were not going over budget or anywhere close to that. And obviously we couldn't, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't end up cutting something from the project because of budget reasons. Which, by the way, the scope, we did not cut anything out of the scope of this project. And actually, we were able to add some things, scope items, into the project. We very carefully looked at the balances in our contingency accounts, what needed to be done, and kind of every meeting projected out where we would be at the end of the project. So there were no sacrifices made in this project when it comes to the scope of the problem. And Barry was a big part of it, making sure that we stayed on track. Is Mike here? Mike is also a member of the building committee. He is the town manager. As the town manager, he is the town's chief procurement officer. So Mike is the one who is ultimately responsible for paying all of the contractors. He represents the town. He has final signature authority, and to the point where we set a threshold, anything below a certain amount, we delegate authority directly to Mike to push those invoices through. So Mike attended almost every meeting, provided good input, feedback on the town's perspective, and he was a valuable member as well. Principal Lafayette, I can't say enough of the work that she's done. That's a nice picture. She took over as principal of Norton High School at the very beginning of the construction. So she's a brand new principal. She has to learn her job, lead her staff, manage all of the needs of the school system, as well as be in the middle of a $34 million renovation project. So her tasks were very challenging, and she performed them without missing a step. I mean, she didn't lose focus, she didn't lose emotion, which I would have. Ray may have, I don't know, but Megan did not, and she stayed even keeled. She got all her tasks completed. She continued to run the school during the last 2 years, work on all of the logistics that I mentioned as far as moving people around, and most of the school, parts of the school, were always closed off, depending on what phase we're in. So there were different wings during the period during the construction that we couldn't use. So that meant having to reroute the students, the staff, reschedule classrooms, that kind of thing. Megan has been a valuable member of the building committee, but I think more for the town to understand a much more valuable member to this Norton High School. All right, Dr. Bayetta came on as the superintendent right at the beginning of the Summer Slam, I think around June, was it? July 1st. And he stepped right in to continue the support from the central office and provide feedback. He was also a member of the building committee, a voting member as well. And he continues to support us and provide valuable contributions, as well as looking forward. Okay, now that we have this nice new high school, how are we going to properly maintain it, keep it clean, properly utilize all of the resources and the features that it provides? And I know that Dr. Bayetta is very in tune with making sure that that continues on. So at this point, we're going to go to a video that was put together by